Waiter humiliates Elon Musk in a luxury restaurant, but when he reveals his true identity, he leaves everyone in shock. What if a simple waiter could challenge one of the most powerful men in the world? Ethan Parker, a 28-year-old, works at a luxury restaurant in New York, the epicenter of ambition and shattered dream. An aspiring musician, he carries the weight of disillusionment and a certain disdain for the world of the wealthy, whom he sees as oppressors of the aspirations of ordinary workers. In his small, messy apartment, filled with musical instruments and posters of famous bands, Ethan struggles between his artistic ambitions and the need to support himself, an internal conflict that consumes his soul. On an ordinary day, he encounters Elon Musk, the visionary billionaire, at one of his tables. Musk, accustomed to being treated with reverence, is in New York for meetings and charity events, but seeks a breath of anonymity. The contrast between the two men is palpable. While Ethan personifies the struggle for authenticity, Musk is a symbol of material success that often feels dehumanizing. What should have been a casual encounter transforms into a moment of tension when Ethan, not recognizing Musk, makes sarcastic comments about billionaires, challenging the status quo. This disrespect, an audacious act in such an oppressive environment, places both men in a moral dilemma. The restaurant's manager, Sofia Ramirez, a strong and demanding woman who also carries her own frustrations and abandoned dreams, finds herself in the crucial role of mediating this conflict. The restaurant, with its luxurious atmosphere and elitist clientele, becomes the perfect setting for this battle between dreams and realities, where social inequality is a constant shadow. In this hostile environment, what begins as a simple misunderstanding can turn into a journey of self-discovery and reflection, challenging Ethan's convictions and leading Musk to reconsider the meaning of respect and authenticity. The story unfolds, promising a confrontation that could change the course of their lives forever. Ethan Parker, the young waiter, was used to dealing with the superficiality of the luxury restaurant's customers. However, his encounter with Elon Musk shook him in a way he could not foresee. The audacity of his sarcastic comments, which had previously seemed like mere venting of frustrations, now echoed in his mind. He felt like an intruder in a world he despised, but at the same time, the very act of challenging a billionaire made him feel alive. The atmosphere in the restaurant changed after that tense conversation. Whispers among the other waiters and kitchen staff increased, and Ethan noticed that everyone's attention was turned toward him. What should have been just a casual interaction quickly turned into a spectacle. Meanwhile, Musk, with his penetrating gaze, seemed to reflect on Ethan's words. The young waiter found himself in a dilemma. Should he feel proud for having challenged such a powerful figure, or should he worry about the consequences of his actions? Sofia Ramirez, the restaurant manager, observed everything with an expression that mixed concern and admiration. She knew that Ethan had exceptional musical talent, but she also understood that life had pushed him away from his dreams. Sofia had faced her own battles, fighting to be respected in a male-dominated environment. She wanted to encourage Ethan, but also feared that his boldness could get him in trouble. In a moment of vulnerability, she approached him and said, "Sometimes you have to know when to fight and when to step back. You may have touched a sensitive point, but it could cost you dearly." Those words resonated with Ethan, who began to ponder what he truly wanted. He remembered his sleepless nights, writing songs that spoke about his personal struggles and the injustices of the world. What he wanted was to be heard, to be respected, but the reality of his life as a waiter seemed to suffocate him. He felt that his authenticity was being constantly challenged, not just by Musk, but by the entire system surrounding him. Meanwhile, Musk found himself in a moment of introspection. He was used to being admired, but Ethan's disdain hit him unexpectedly. That conversation forced him to reevaluate his position in the world and how his actions impacted the lives of ordinary people. Musk had always believed that his success was proof that anyone could achieve their dreams, but now he wondered, to what extent did his success contribute to the oppression of others? The tension in the air was palpable. Ethan, battling doubt, decided he could not remain silent. He began to play guitar in his free time, writing songs that expressed his frustration. One day, he decided to perform at a local bar, a space where the voices of dreamers were welcome. The performance was a success, but the connection with the audience was overshadowed by a persistent thought. What if he could never escape the cycle of misery that surrounded him? At the bar, he met Mia, a visual artist who, like him, was struggling to be heard. She would become a valuable friend, someone who encouraged him to move forward and not give up on his dreams. Together they began discussing their ambitions and the challenges they faced. Mia shared her frustrations about the art industry, which often seemed like an insurmountable barrier for emerging artists. Their friendship blossomed amid a sea of difficulties, but it also began to present challenges. Ethan felt drawn to Mia, but the idea of a romance scared him. He feared that the moment he allowed himself to love, he would lose focus on his own dreams. And tell us in the comments which city you are watching this video from. As his life unfolded, between the bar stages and the pressure of working in the restaurant, Ethan began to feel the weight of the choice he had to make. The pressure mounted, and he found himself facing a dilemma: to continue fighting against the system that oppressed him or to submit to it in search of a more comfortable life. This internal struggle would become a test of his determination, leading him to question his beliefs and goals. The voices of his fears and insecurities echoed in his mind as the fight for authenticity and recognition intensified in his life. Ethan was at a critical point in his life. The adrenaline from the bar performance had given him a small victory, but the reality of his existence as a waiter soon hit him again. He realized that the more he surrendered to music, the further he felt from his job at the restaurant, and this division began to create a deep conflict within him. The pressure to earn the money necessary to survive became increasingly suffocating, and the sleepless nights dedicated to composing his songs began to take an emotional toll. That week, a new twist emerged when Sophia, the manager, called a meeting with the entire team. She announced that the restaurant was undergoing a restructuring and that some employees would be laid off to cut costs. Ethan felt his heart race. Uncertainty hung in the air like a dark cloud, and the possibility of being one of the chosen ones to leave left him in a state of constant anxiety. He wondered if this would be the end of his journey there, but he also felt relieved at the chance to dedicate himself entirely to music, even if it meant facing financial instability. Meanwhile, his friendship with Mia began to be tested. She had her own insecurities and pressures, and the conversations that once flowed easily became more tense. Mia was about to do an exhibition that could change her career, and the pressure to succeed made her nervous. Ethan, on the other hand, struggled to balance his feelings for her. The attraction he felt for Mia was palpable, but he was afraid that a relationship could distract him from his ambition. This uncertainty began to create cracks in their friendship, and moments of complicity were replaced by awkward silences. The situation at the restaurant worsened when Ethan was called for a private conversation by Sophia. He felt that the manager was about to make a tempting offer, perhaps a promotion, but when she spoke, her words were a punch to the gut. Sophia had decided that, considering his performance as a waiter and his recent boldness in confronting Musk, he should be promoted to a more prestigious position. This meant more money, but also more responsibilities and less time for music. Ethan was torn between immediate gratification and the burning desire to pursue his dream. Meanwhile, external pressure increased. The local audience began to talk about Ethan, and his performance videos started circulating on social media. An independent record label expressed interest in his work, but the offer of a contract came with demands that left him in doubt. This meant he would have to commit to writing songs to please the market, which went against his desire to express his authenticity. In this chaotic scenario, the tension between Ethan and Mia culminated in a misunderstanding. During one night, when both were preparing for Mia's big exhibition, Ethan, consumed by anxiety and pressure, said something that deeply hurt her feelings. He accused her of being so obsessed with her success that she couldn't see the struggles he was facing. Mia was hurt and pulled away, and the friendship that had once been a source of strength and inspiration was now becoming a source of pain and regret. In the face of all these challenges, Ethan began to feel lost. He was in a vicious cycle of doubt and insecurity, struggling against the pressure to meet others' expectations while trying to figure out who he really was. The intensity of his emotions led him to a breaking point, and he found himself at a crossroads, to follow a safe but unsatisfying path, or to risk everything for music, even if it meant losing Mia and the stability he had gained at the restaurant. The crisis intensified when he received a call from the record label, which wanted him to perform at a prestigious music festival. It was the opportunity he had always dreamed of, but it would come at a price. Ethan needed to decide quickly, and the hours that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. He knew that the choice he made would not only shape his future, but also influence the relationships he valued most. The struggle for authenticity and recognition was becoming a battle not only external, but also internal, as Ethan prepared to face what was to come. Ethan was in a state of uncertainty, his mind swirling with conflicting thoughts and emotions on edge. After the call from the record label, his heart pulsed with anticipation and fear. He knew that participating in the music festival was a unique opportunity that could change his life, but the idea of leaving behind his security at the restaurant tormented him. As he walked through the city streets, the vibrant sounds of music echoed in his mind, mingled with the whispers of his worries. That night, he decided to seek some clarity in the only way he knew, through music. Upon arriving home, he sat down in his makeshift little studio and began to play. The notes flowed from his fingers as if they had a life of their own, and the intensity of his emotions transformed into melody. But as the music took shape, the last conversation with Mia invaded his thoughts, and the pain of their fractured friendship mingled with his internal struggle. He remembered her wounded look when they had a falling out, and it cut him like a knife. Then something extraordinary happened. The music he was composing took an unexpected turn, transforming into a deeply emotional ballad that spoke of loss, ambition, and the search for identity. Tears streamed down his face as he played, and for a moment he felt he could channel all his pain and confusion into something beautiful. It was as if, at that moment, the music freed him from the shackles that bound him to doubt and insecurity. When the song ended, Ethan felt a profound relief. He realized that regardless of what he decided, music would always be his true essence. The festival represented a chance to present himself to the world in a way he had never imagined, but what mattered most was his authenticity. He remembered Mia's words, who had always encouraged him to be true to himself, and that ignited a new flame within him. With this epiphany, Ethan decided he could no longer live between two worlds. He needed to make a choice that reflected who he truly was. The weight of responsibility at the restaurant could not suffocate his dream. It was clear that the promotion would bring stability, but at what cost? At the same time, the record label represented a path to fulfillment, even if it involved risks. So, he picked up the phone and called Sophia, ready to decline the promotion. Her voice, filled with surprise and disappointment, echoed in his ears. But Ethan was steadfast in his decision. He needed to follow his heart, even if it meant giving up a secure future. Then he called the record label, accepting the invitation to the festival. Excitement and fear mingled, but he knew he was on the right path. Ethan's decision created a new scenario in his life. Now, he was preparing to perform at a major festival, but he also faced the uncertainty of the future. He knew that this choice could distance him from Mia, who was so focused on her own career, but it could also be the catalyst for a new beginning. Their friendship was still fragile, but there was hope that if they both pursued their dreams, they could find a way back to each other. Now, Ethan felt he was about to step into a new chapter of his life. The idea of performing on a stage larger than any he had ever known made him nervous, but also excited. He was about to take a risk, to expose himself, and that left him not only apprehensive, but also full of hope. He knew the festival would be a test not only of his musical abilities, but also of his courage to be who he truly was. As he looked out the window, watching the city lights, Ethan felt he had finally found his voice. And this was just the beginning of his journey. Ethan was about to take the stage at the festival, his heart racing as the sounds of the crowd reached him like a distant roar. He had spent weeks preparing, but nothing could prepare him for the moment he was about to experience. He remembered the sleepless nights, the hours spent composing and rehearsing, and how each note had become a reflection of his deepest emotions. But now, however, the nervousness threatened to consume him. What if he failed? What if the music didn't play as he had imagined? While waiting backstage, memories of Mia flooded his mind once again. The misunderstanding, the unspoken words, and how much he missed her. Their friendship was an open wound that still bled, and in that moment, Ethan wondered if she was there, watching. He needed her, but what he wanted most was for her to be proud of him. The pressure was not only on his performance, but also on the reconciliation he yearned for. When his name was announced, a chill ran through him. The music he had prepared, the emotional ballad that had emerged from that night of self-discovery, echoed in his mind. He took a deep breath and with a hesitant step, stepped onto the illuminated stage. The blinding light enveloped him, and the sight of the crowd left him dazed. The moment of truth had arrived, and he could not hide. Ethan picked up his guitar and began to play. The first notes came out soft, but as the music flowed, he felt the energy of the crowd connecting with him. The melody grew, and he began to sing. His voice, usually timid, soared with a confidence he didn't know he had. He sang of ambition, dreams, pain, and above all, authenticity. The song became a catharsis, a cry for freedom that resonated in the heart of every listener. But in the midst of the performance, a thought struck him like lightning. Was Mia listening? He searched for her in the crowd, and for a moment, everything around him faded away. He saw a familiar face in the back, and the image of Mia, her eyes shining, encouraged him to keep going. The challenge now was not just to play for the crowd, but also for her, so she could feel what he felt. The music reached its climax, and Ethan surrendered completely. He was exposed, vulnerable, but also powerful. He realized he was not just overcoming insecurity, he was reconnecting with everything he had learned along his journey. Each chord was a step toward healing his friendship with Mia, each lyric a promise that he would remain true to himself. When the last note echoed and the music came to an end, the crowd erupted in applause. The sound was deafening, but Ethan could hardly hear. His heart was in a whirlwind of emotions. He had faced his deepest fears and emerged victorious. What was once just an opportunity had transformed into a statement of who he truly was. As Ethan left the stage, he felt a wave of relief and happiness. The anticipation and fear had dissipated, giving way to a new understanding of himself. He had not only won over the audience, but he had also taken an important step toward reconciliation with Mia. Now, he felt ready to face any challenge, not just in music, but in all aspects of life. As he walked through the backstage, Mia's gaze met his. Words were unnecessary. A sincere smile and a mutual nod said it all. He knew their journey was not over, but that moment on stage had been the catalyst they both needed. Ethan finally understood that every challenge faced, every tear shed, and every note played had brought him to this point. He was ready for a new beginning, and music, his eternal ally, would always be his guide. Ethan felt a wave of emotions after leaving the stage. The deafening applause still echoed in his ears, but what mattered was the transformation that had occurred within him. He knew he had overcome more than just the fear of performing. He had taken a significant step toward reconciliation with Mia. The music he played was not just an expression of his art, but also a call to the friendship he valued so much. As he walked through the backstage, a feeling of lightness enveloped him. He remembered the nights he felt lost, trapped in his insecurities, and now he realized that every moment of struggle had shaped him into the person he was at that moment. He reflected on the lessons learned, the importance of vulnerability, the strength that lies in being authentic, and the need to face challenges head-on, not just in music, but in all aspects of his life. Mia approached, and their eyes met again. Her smile, radiant and full of support, spoke more than words could express. They both knew that their friendship had been tested, and that moment on stage was just the beginning of a new phase. The connection Ethan felt for her was now stronger, more sincere, and he was determined to cultivate it. He no longer wanted misunderstandings and unspoken words to stand between them. The crowd was still buzzing, but Ethan realized that his true victory lay in how he had impacted those around him, especially Mia. He felt stronger and more capable, not just as a musician, but as a friend. He knew their journey did not end there. It was a new beginning, a fresh chance to understand each other and support one another. As they left the festival, Ethan and Mia talked about their dreams and fears, sharing laughter and memories. Music would always be a fundamental part of their lives, but more importantly, their friendship had been reaffirmed amidst vulnerability and overcoming challenges. Ethan looked toward the horizon, feeling ready to face whatever came next. He had found his voice, not just in music, but also within himself, and he was determined not to let anything stop him from moving forward. Life was a melody, and now he was prepared to play it in harmony with Mia by his side.